Back pain is, of course, the bane of everyone's existence or a potential threat, and is related to two muscle groups that you would want to exercise regardless of whether you have back pain or not, and are hard to exercise. Those are your quadriceps, which is the tops of your thighs, associated with bending your knees, and the stomach muscles, which balance out against the back muscles. So if you don't have that balance, then you tend to overuse your back muscles and have poor posture. And that puts pressure on your discs and leads to degradation or pain and suffering. So, in order to learn to use your quads and stomach and exercise them at the same time, we're trying to reverse the cycle of disuse, cycle of weakness that feeds on itself. So this device is similar to like a very lightweight knee brace, just really to measure the angle of your knees. It could be integrated with the true knee brace if you needed a knee brace. But at the moment, it's just for measurement. What it does is when you lock your knees, as if you're standing with one knee locked, which is a classic slouch position of disuse, it will wait a certain amount of time, a second, 3/4 of a second, and then it will vibrate in the way that your phone vibrates when it rings with the vibrator. And it will tell you that you should probably bend your knee down. Thus, you maintain yourself in a slightly knee bent position whenever you're standing. This causes your posture to largely correct itself inherently. And it also causes you to use your stomach and your quadriceps, which is the whole goal. But it does allow you to walk normally. And even if you lock your knees or somehow have it while you're walking in some leisurely way, it won't be triggered because you'll be not in that position for long enough to signal a vibrating signal. Therefore, you will learn to stand up straighter and be in more of a attention position, which is similar to a karate type position where you're less likely to fall over and injure yourself, and you're more able to respond to sudden stimuli or the need to respond to some emergency or maneuver. Because people falling, especially in old age, when people get even more frail and their quads, stomach get even weaker, this could be critical because falls are a major cause of death and suffering. So this device has been known as supergravity. It is as if you were counteracting gravity with these muscles, although there is no increase in actual weight on your body. This seems to be the most effective. There are methods of giving biofeedback to your head position, but they are a little less practical, because a lot of times your head is snagging you down to do something like read at a table, which is not ideal. And I have other solutions for that, which is to put wheels on your table and take the wheels off your chair, and to replace the wheels on your chair with maybe some carpeting type sliders so that your chair can be moved if necessary, but kind of sticks to where it is. So that way, your chair doesn't pull out from under you and cause you to lean forward. Therefore, you can tilt your chair backwards even so that you're actually in a kickback position and your back is not under any sort of Hunchback of Notre Dame type position. And then you can pull the desk to you so that you're close to the desk. This seems to require to put your computer monitor on some type of riser that's big enough to allow you to put your keyboard underneath. And I can make those for you, and you can see them in the examples. This allows the monitor to be more at your eye level when you're in a kickback fighter pilot F-16 position, which is so much more comfortable and not using your back in a hunchback fashion. But you do need the damn screen closer, and you need your keyboard closer, and you need the table closer. So by putting the keyboard underneath the monitor on a riser And having wheels on the table, you can pull the table, cinch it up to your waist. Then you can work in this position for long periods of time without getting tired and without putting additional strain on your disc system of the building blocks of your back. Another strategy that's more about acid reflux, but you can tilt your bed quite significantly. And you can put a monitor above your bed, and you can do significant amounts of work in your bed with an extension or a keyboard that you can grab and use on your bed. It's nice to have a keyboard that's lit keys so that if you don't know which key it is in the dark, you can see your keys. Because a lot of times if you're working in bed, you're working late at night and you're about to fall asleep, and you may want to just work till you drop. You want to be able to see the keys and then just move the thing to one side on some bed table and go to sleep and reach up and turn off your monitor and it hit the sag. So that's how I do it. Now, the tilting of the bed helps with this back issue of getting more work done without being a hunchback of Notre Dame. And when you wake up in the morning, you can usually kind of go, oh, yeah, maybe I'll turn on my monitor and I'll do a few things that I was thinking about while I was sleeping and waking up that I wanted to do and answer some emails and stuff. And you can get this weird little head start burst of all the stuff you were thinking in your sleep done quickly before you decide maybe to get back up or even go back to sleep. So that's pretty good. But the tilting aspect also tries to keep acid from coming up your stomach into your throat, where it can cause cancer and irritation and physical pain from heartburn, as it's called. So there's that. So it's pretty good. Now, I also find that because of the weight of your legs hanging down and the friction on your back that keeps your upper body from sliding down, provides a certain amount of traction to the spine that feels pretty darn good, because usually traction was considered to be a little bit a good thing because it takes weight off of the pads between the bone and your spine. And the only way your pads have to regenerate is by absorbing fluids at night when they're not under strain, because they don't have blood vessels reaching into them or anything. They just rely on floating stuff in your plasma, and they rely on the expansion cycle of sleeping. So by maximizing this expansion cycle, there's some hope of improving the condition of the discs in your back. So I think all around, a tilted bed is pretty darn good. And mine is pretty darn tilted on some steel pipes that have a wooden block underneath. See that in a picture, and I can make those for you. It is somewhat challenging, as it usually sometimes the wheels of your bed frame have some tough time being at that angle on the bottom. They have to take a different foot. And the first time you use it, you may not be used to it, and you may end up at the bottom of your bed with the covers off just because you weren't used to it yet. And you got in a fetal position and slid down. But you get used to it pretty quickly, and that's never happened to me in many years, except for just when I first tried it. Now, the tilted bed thing I first read about in a singing instructor's notes to singers. And that was one of the things she said all singers should do it, because the voice is so critical to them. That it wasn't as if you had to be a person who had acid reflux. She just said, do it. And I'm not a singer, but I'm a human when I talk. Right now, my voice is getting a little rough, so I'm going to get some water. But nonetheless, now I'm going to go to Jack in the Box, and it's way too late to eat Jack in the Box. But I'm going to probably sleep in a chair for a while so that my digestion goes down. But it's not that great to sleep in chairs, because people have known to be getting blood clots in their legs from sleeping in chairs. You really do want to sleep in bed. Of course, the famous incident is being on an airliner, and it happened to Vice President Dan Quayle, who was young, and you wouldn't have thought, but in fact, he got blood clots. And I do know somebody who was an Olympic athlete, a medal winner, who got pneumonia and then spent so much time in a lazy boy sleeping that he ended up with all kinds of blood clots in the hospital. And because he spent too much time in that lazy boy, kicked back when he should have been in bed. So sometimes I do sack out in my work chair, that I described earlier in the other parts of the video. But just to do some digestion, but I try to get back in bed as soon as I think it's safe for acid reflux. And no, we're not supposed to eat for many, many hours before going to bed, but sometimes I just violate that rule.